What's going on, all my fantasy football fans? It's Waiver Wire Queen. In today's video, I am going to recommend players you should consider adding to help your team week 11. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can stay connected throughout the week and throughout the fantasy football season. So there are two teams on a bye week this week. We have the Rams and the Broncos. That is a lot of firepower, obviously, out at the running back position, wide receivers, and most definitely when you have someone like Matthew Stafford out, who is most likely starting on your fantasy football team, you really have to make sure that you find the right quarterbacks to replace them. But hopefully during your draft, you address that and make sure you secured a backup who's capable of going out there and filling in for Stafford during the bye week, which is this week. So let's talk about some quarterbacks who may be able to help your team. I know this is probably one of the more popular recommendations, but Cam is back, y'all. Cam is in the building. He's back with the Panthers. He looked happy as hell yesterday. He had 2 touchdowns. Obviously, I feel like right now on that roster, even though he may have not looked that good last season with the Patriots, he is the best quarterback on that roster. Arnold has been playing really bad lately, and now he is out. And then Philip Walker, he hasn't looked that good, and I feel like Cam is better than him right now. So if you want to take a chance on Cam, obviously, he didn't do as much, but he did get 2 touchdowns yesterday, so that says a lot. So if you can pick up Cam, he is available. He is rostered in 16% of Yahoo leagues, 12% of ESPN leagues, and 71% of sleeper leagues, which tells you that some people already jumped on him or they didn't release him when the Patriots released him. So check out Cam. Now, this recommendation is shocking to me because he's actually playing well. And when a player's playing well, I don't care what they've done in the past, I don't care who they are, you take advantage. So Trevor Simeon is actually putting together a few solid games for the Saints. What has he done over the last 3 games? 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and over 700 passing yards, which isn't bad for someone that we're all looking sideways at, like, he's not going to be able to do it. Well, he has done a solid job, and so considering it's a bye week, and if you have someone who is out or just struggling, then Simeon should be able to fill in for your team. He does have a tough schedule coming up, but nonetheless, Philly is not a layup. They have been playing good football the last 2, maybe even 3 games. So I'm not going to say that, oh, this is going to be easy based on what Philly was doing earlier on in the season. But nonetheless, he should be able to help your team. He is currently rostered in most leagues because he is a quarterback, and especially in super flex leagues, but nonetheless he is definitely still out there and available. And just remember, he does have a tough matchup based on what Philadelphia has done over the last several weeks, but nonetheless he should still be able to be a good fill-in or DFS because the salary doesn't cost that much. So let's talk about some running backs that you should consider adding, because obviously we do have some good running backs who are going to be out. You got Henderson on a bye. You got Gordon, Javonte Williams, and also Michelle. So these running backs should be able to help, not as every week, but should be able to fill in depending on some situations. Ty Johnson has put together a few solid games. I don't look at him as RB1 or RB2, but he definitely can be a flex play. And if you are struggling, you just know that he has been more consistent and predictable than McKissick and Hines. With McKissick and Hines this season, it's been, okay, should I play him this game? No, I'm not. Then they go off. Then you put him in the next game, and then they simply don't. However, Ty Johnson has been consistent in what type of production he is going to get for you each week. Now, I'm not saying you drop Hines or McKissick for him, but what I am saying is 100% what he's going to do for you every week. The Jets have made that ultimate decision that it's going to be Carter and Johnson, and that has worked pretty good. They have worked very well together. So Johnson is rostered in over 18% of Yahoo leagues, 18.1% of ESPN leagues, and 72% of sleeper leagues, which means he is still out there and he is available. He actually helped me this past week because I was struggling with several injuries. And again, that is also something you have to consider, especially if you have not been able to secure your starting running backs backup. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and handcuff your guy, especially if you know your guy is injury prone. So, you got to do what you got to do out here in these fantasy football streets. He is doing really good, and he has some solid matchups coming up. Miami, even though they have been playing much better on the defensive side, nonetheless, still should be a nice, solid play. Then he has Houston and Philly coming up. So some of these games, he may be able to help you as a flex play if you are struggling with injuries and players just not living up to what your expectations are. Now, Ramondre Stevenson played his tail off, and he may be coming for somebody's job. I don't know, Harris. He may be coming for your job, but nonetheless, those two probably will be great together. But you do have to keep in mind that Harris is still in the concussion protocol, so you do not know when he's going to come out. They both were concussed last week, and Stevenson was able to pass the NFL's concussion protocol, and he had the game of his life. And so if they had any little doubts, they should not have any more doubts about him. He should be in the mix every week going forward because of what he was able to do against that Browns defense, which is one of the top 5 defense in the NFL. He had over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, and 14 receiving yards, which is a really good day for a running back who was at one point in a doghouse because he fumbled the ball and then it missed an assignment on a block, which got Matt Jones knocked out for about 2 seconds. But nonetheless, he's redeemed himself and is definitely a player you should consider adding, especially if Harris is going to miss any more time because of the concussion. You also got to realize that Harris has a tendency to miss time. He's, to me, injury prone as well. And if you have Harris, you should definitely prioritize Stevenson. He is rostered in over 32% of Yahoo leagues, 9.9% of ESPN leagues, and 88% of sleeper leagues. So people are picking up. So Aaron Jones, he may miss some time. He sprained his MCL. Do not know if he's going to miss a lot of time, or we'll have to see. I'm sure within the next day or so, we'll know more the extent of the injury and how much time he may miss. So A.J. Dillon is a must-add. And if you had Jones, you most likely secured Dillon weeks ago. And that's going to pay off if he has to miss time. So right now, Dillon is rostered in over 72% of Yahoo leagues, 59% of ESPN leagues, and 95% of sleeper leagues. I actually see him on waivers in one of my leagues, so he may be someone that I'm targeting. I have a lot of issues at running back right now with injuries, and just I have Hines and McKissick in 2 leagues, and they're inconsistent. One thing's for certain, when you got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, and he has been playing well at times at running back, I expect him to play well. With Aaron Jones leaving that game, he had 66 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 receptions for 62 yards. So Dillon had a solid game. He was very effective, even though his yards per carry were fairly low. I don't care. He still was productive and had everybody looking like, oh, I got to put in a claim for him if he's available in your league. So that is what you do. Now let's talk about some wide receivers who should be able to help your team. Now going forward with the Lions is obviously going to be Raymond and St. Brown. St. Brown, pick him up. They go back and forth with who is going to be the more productive wide receiver each week. So if you are struggling, you have wide receivers out or not living up to expectations, these are some guys you can consider. So Brown and Raymond. Raymond is available in most on most platforms, so pick him up. Now, this past week, he really wasn't that good. It was more of Brown. But again, what I've analyzed is they go back and forth. Garth goes back and forth with them. Understand these are not the ideal wide receivers, but when you are struggling and in need of help, you're going to get help wherever you can get him. Now, Bryan Edwards had a really good game, 4 receptions, 88 yards, and 1 touchdown. Finally got his chance now. Hopefully, this is going to be a trend, and he's going to be more involved in that Vegas passing game, because with Ruggs being released, it is now Edwards and obviously one of my favorites, Renfrow. But nonetheless, Renfrow is your more consistent and more reliable wide receiver, but Edwards should start seeing more targets and being a bit more consistent. He is rostered in 18% of Yahoo leagues, 16% of ESPN leagues, and 88% of sleeper leagues. He is getting the opportunity, and it's time for him to step up and enjoy the moment. Okay, now let's talk about the Titans. Julio Jones is on IR, so that means he's going to miss at least the next 3 games. A.J. Brown was a little bit banged up early on in yesterday's game. Marcus Johnson, surprised everyone, he is available in most leagues, on most platforms. So if you can prioritize him, he actually played well. Brown just didn't have a really good game yesterday versus the Saints. And Johnson obviously did. He had 5 receptions for 100 yards. So he's someone you should be looking at, especially if Jones is going to continue to be out, which he will be for the next few games. And who knows if it's going to be longer than that. And then also you want to monitor Brown because he was a bit dinged up yesterday. So check for Marcus Johnson, if nothing else, in daily fantasy, because his salary is not going to cost that much. But if Brown can't go because he has a setback, even though he was still able to play, then you know what you need to do. Tim Patrick is always someone you should be checking for. Over the last 3 games, he has 10 receptions, 163 receiving yards. He is rostered in 33% of Yahoo leagues, 26% of ESPN leagues, and 85% of sleeper leagues, which means he is available, and you should consider picking him up because he has been very consistent throughout the season, even with Sutton and one of my faves, Judy, in the mix. One of my favorite recommended wide receivers who I've been talking about long before he actually has surfaced and has arrived, Jamal Agnew. I've been talking about him early on in the season. This is before Chark got hurt. So he didn't have, obviously, any receptions yesterday, but I've been recommending him because they utilize him in so many different ways. Receiving game, running. He had 3 rushes for 79 yards. Obviously, he had the big one for 66 yards with 1 touchdown yesterday. Lawrence is struggling, so keep that in mind. Over the last 3 games, he's had 9 receptions, which isn't bad for someone who is playing for a rookie quarterback who is struggling and with no expectations at wide receiver. He is rostered in a little over 9% of Yahoo leagues, 8.1% of ESPN leagues, and 59% of sleeper leagues, which means he is available, guys. So pick him up. If nothing else, as a flex play and to help with players who are going to be on a bye week and injuries. Another wide receiver to look at is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's going to get an opportunity because when you have OBJ, that's right, Odell has left the building. However, keep in mind that is a run-first offense. Nonetheless, they're going to have to throw the ball to someone, and he is one of the guys who is going to obviously take on a larger role with Odell, now with the Rams. So you should consider taking a chance on him. He's rostered in 28% of Yahoo leagues, a little over 17% in ESPN leagues, and 85% of sleeper leagues. Now let's talk about some tight ends because 2 of these guys are really killing it right now. Dan Arnold, I've been talking about him when he was on the Panthers. That'll be good right now considering Cam. But I expect Trimble to see a little uptick in his production. But nonetheless, Arnold is playing his tail off. Again, he's with the Jaguars, and you have a rookie quarterback who isn't playing well. He trusts Arnold, and Arnold is now more relaxed and understands the playbook a bit more, and they have that rapport developing. So pick him up, because what has he done the last 3 games? 17 receptions, which is very high at 198 receiving yards. So pick him up. I don't see why he is only rostered in 26% of Yahoo leagues and 26% of ESPN leagues. Pick him up, okay? He's playing well. You know, at the tight end spot, you have tight ends that are struggling. Some may be out. Pick him up, because if nothing else, Trevor Lawrence may be struggling, but he is going to get Arnold the ball. And all we care about is making sure we have someone reliable for that week. And he is showing that he's becoming one of the more reliable tight ends. Tyler Conklin has been playing very well of late. So what you're going to do, you're going to pick him up. He is another tight end, kind of like Conklin. Obviously, everyone's looking at sideways like, who? I don't care the who, but I care about the what they are doing. And right now, they are trending up and playing well. Conklin has had 13 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and 113 receiving yards over the last 3 games. He is available, okay? He's rostered in 31% of Yahoo leagues, 39% of ESPN leagues, and 77% of sleeper leagues. These guys are great additions to your team, especially if you're in a 2 tight end league. So what are you going to do? You're going to pick them up and use them until they are no longer performing. But in a 2 tight end league, you're still going to keep them on your roster, because when you have Trevor Lawrence and Kirk Cousins, you make sure you grab their tight ends, because sometimes they just won't be able to get their wide receivers the ball like they should. And you know what? Those 2 tight ends should help your team. All right, y'all, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to make the channel grow, and so you are staying connected throughout the weeks. And make sure those notifications are on so you can see more great content later on this week. Wednesday to be exact, I will be releasing my start sits information, so tune in for that and have those notifications on so you know when that video drops. All right, y'all have a great day. Peace.